Thank you so much for having me. I think that the problem needs to be solved not by building more and more police stations in Arab towns, because we see that specifically in particular in Arab towns where there are police stations. I mean, murders are happening next to police stations. I think that the change needs to be a deeper systematic change. I think that the police needs to change its the way it deals with the Arab community and the way it deals with the problem that the Arab community faces. The Arab community feels like the police, deals with them as potential enemies, as not as citizens of the country that deserve security and protection. And for instance. Arab citizens look at how the police and how security forces respond to different things that are happening across the country, whether it be crime in Jewish communities, or for example the last viral escape from prison of the Palestinian prisoners. They were caught in a matter of days in Arab towns. And so the average Arab citizens looks at this and wonders, if the state was able to get to prisoners, inmates who fled prison in a matter of a few days, why can't they solve the murders and the violent problem that is widespread across the community, the Arab community?
So now in the last week, we have a lot of words from police commanders and also from the prime minister himself pledging more resources. Let's listen to what Naftali Bennett had to say a few days ago.
I want to be very clear. After years of neglect, which allowed crime to spike in Arab society and uncontrolled shootings in the streets and violence, my government, headed by me, is determined to fight crime tirelessly, steadily, and consistently with all our force, the crime and violence in the Arab society.
What do those words mean to you, Muhammad? And what specifically do you think needs to happen? I mean, he says he will fight this issue tirelessly. How should he do it?
Look, to be honest, I'm not very impressed. I am encouraged by the fact that, for the first time in Israel's history, an Arab party is officially part of the coalition and can actually, perform, or can actually pressure the government to take actions. And this is the government with the largest number of Arabs, in its coalition in the history of the country. So I am encouraged by that, but I'm not really impressed by the empty promises. What I really see here is the fact that the political circles in Israel have, realized that the Arab violence, the Arab, internal violence has started to spread out outside of the Arab community. And when that happens, just as one of the mothers said earlier in your broadcast, the police and the state don't seem to care unless, it starts hurting Jewish citizens. And when
are these powerful, organized crime? Are these family disputes that sometimes get out of hand and turn deadly? Are these organized crime rings?
This is mostly organized problem. The problem is that we have, there's an absence of the state in the Arab community, and there's a monopoly of strong family that are very active in the I forgot the word in English, in the ulama, in the shuka for the black market. And so what they do is they sometimes create a situation where many Arab citizens, many Arab families are sort of reliant on them to get loans that they can't get from the state, or to get support and different things that they can't get from the state, or the protection, the security that sometimes they give to citizens because of the absence of the police. Now, what happened since the May riots, when we saw Jews and Arabs, ambushing each other, and beating each other down the street, the police and the state and the government, the new government and the former government, they both realized, we cannot keep ignoring this violence that's widespreading in the Arab community, because apparently it's not only between Arabs. Because, until the moment it was only between Arabs, it seemed that, people maybe pretended to care, but they were indifferent, let the Arabs kill themselves. But when it started to spread outside of the Arab community, which is natural because we live in a small country where we live very close to each other, suddenly everybody cares. Now, that is sad, but that should be a reminder to our fellow Jewish citizens to remember that if we don't join hands in fighting this plague, the same way we fought it when it was spread out in Netanya, in Ashdod, in Tel Aviv, And if we don't fight it the same way now in Nazareth, in Shfaram, in Al-Fahim, in Haifa, and in other Arab places,
right?
It's going to get to all of us.
Muhammad, thank you so much for your perspective. Great to have you on the Zoom In Show.
Thank you for having me.